we were studying the thought of John Paul II. We were reading the encyclicals, and we were starting to read some of his other works. And we'd heard, he had written poetry, and it was like our idea of a party, right? We were gonna get some beer, and we were gonna sit around and each just read parts. The things, the insights, the wisdom, the theology of the church, the real depths of it it's not just information that you just learn and memorize. There's an insight into the dignity of the person that is only realized in their relationship with each other. And so that diversity of skills and diversity of gifts, those things that we read about in the scriptures about, one body and many parts. When you're really working hard at the difficult task of studying like that, and you're doing that in the context of a genuine community of thinkers and of workers, there was a real camaraderie. And that has continued on. I mean, our friendship.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's just real camaraderie is.
Well, tie into that too, like the. We went into it, and at first, like you're saying, like we didn't get to pick. We had to, we were given. And it's like there's this sense of this trust and this kind of trusting in God's plan. Trusting, don't go into it just kind of trying to get what you want out of it. There's this openness to where the Spirit's going to lead us in this. And one of the fruitful things not only was the formation and then not only the classes and the fellowship and the conversations extremely fruitful, but from that one of the things was the jeweler shop, right? So we started the Theophany Players, right? And then we all started doing this reading of Pope John Paul II's work that he did when he was the Bishop of Krakow, and he wrote The Jeweler Shop, one of his 5 plays. And then we start doing a reading, and next thing you know, we're traveling, going around and doing this.
It started
play
off as a study session. I mean,
it was the fruit of the community, the fellowship.
That's right. We were studying the thought of John Paul II. We were reading the encyclicals, and we were starting to read some of his other works from before he was Pope, and we'd heard, he had written poetry. And he was, there was. And we used to study in the basement of the Basilica of the National Shrine in D.C. And they have this great big bookstore down there. And I remember I was there, Mike Phelan was there, and Mike Garibaldi was there. And we were having this conversation, and he goes, I think they have that book. And Mike just got up and went to the bookstore and just bought it. He's like, oh, look, here's this book. We never read it before. It's like, we should read this together. We're studying everything else together. We should read this together. And how interesting would it be if we each took parts and we just got around? And it was like our idea of a party, right? We were gonna get some beer and we were gonna sit around and each just read parts, and so we were just gonna do a reading. And
I remember that day Michael stood up in class and was like, I invite anybody, we're going to do this reading of the Jeweler Shop if anybody's interested. And it was just the right number of people raised their hand to fit the number of people that are in
the play. And we all just took parts and we just read it. And we didn't understand it, and then we read it again, and it was really, and then other people wanted to hear it, and we read it again, and then eventually we didn't start off doing a play. The first time we did it publicly,
it was just we were reading this.
We were sitting in chairs in a row with the script in our hand, and we just read it. And there was a whole crowd of people there.
My favorite time, though, was when we went to Mother of God Community in Maryland, and it was a dinner theater. We helped cook, right? We did some of the, we had the tables set, and so we had the dinner, and then we had this small little room that we were in. We were jam-packed, and we did the performance there. And then afterwards, after doing the reading, then we had a discussion of it.
A
conversation. And that was so because it's so rich and it was so intense that it's not something that you're going in there to be like this. It's not the circus. It's not this Fire and Lights Hollywood. There's this depth in the word that demanded us a little bit more attention, and on the actor's part or the people reading it, and also in the audience. So it was different.
What I remember especially about that was the insight of the audience. They understood aspects of the play. I mean, we had been working at it and talking about this play for months and months. And then you go and this, people in the audience, this is the first time they ever heard it, and they start bringing up I think that when this was happening, and to us, it wasn't like we were the experts. We were not the experts in this play. There was more. We were students of that play, and so we And those insights that this audience had like really informed our reading. Like we had to rethink, like, you know, oh, that's what he was trying to say.
Some of my favorite parts, we would do the play, and then I was waiting, like, okay, get the chairs out, and then because we would then, after the performance, we would get chairs, we would sit on the stage, and you'd help lead, and we'd have the mic, and then we would ask questions and dialogue with the audience. That was like my favorite part. Like, okay, get the play over with. Okay, now let's sit down.
Tell us what that play was about, because we're still interested.
You know, and I remember the play is incredible. One day we have to do an insight.
We did it here. Remember, we did it at whole
we did. But I want us to talk more about it again, because there was such rich depth in those words and those acts.